if it might fall.
If
Okay.
the cat's not jumping at it. Yeah, we will.
Okay.
She already was here.
Could I have a cigarette too?
Yeah, sure. Do you have stuff? Do you have wristlets?
Yeah.
Or do you need one? Right. So yeah, I think for yourself to answer that very question, why you did it, is maybe not possible now, right now, but maybe to reflect how you felt during the process.
Right.
From the very first time you had that thought, because
Well,
that's where the process started, right? The very first time you thought, all right, yeah, I want to fake my own death via social media. From that very first time, there was a process you went through, right? That thought went through a process, and with it yourself, I guess. And so that's something, my opinion, worth looking into.
Yeah. Well,
Thing?
yeah. I was actually at work when I had the idea. I was working in the gallery at my school, and I was working with my friend David Turley, and he actually knew about it because I when I had the idea, I was sitting there talking to him, and I was like, oh, this guy just found out, blah blah blah. And
So
like
it was that
he
thing.
watched me go through the process
Yeah.
of thinking, like, and coming to the idea that I should do it. And
So it was that thing, that guy who found out that his friend died
yeah,
through Facebook, yeah?
that was what gave
That
me
was
the idea.
the initial idea. Oh, yeah. Well, then that's something. That could be something. To go from there. No? That's the initial idea.
So yeah, I guess like, social media was tied up in it from the beginning. Like,
Yeah, it sounds like it. It sounds like it.
yeah.
And well, it also sounds like that death, grief, that kind of stuff was wept into it as well, because you could have also just said, all right, yeah, I abandoned Facebook for 2 months. I'm telling people, all right, I'm cool, but I'm abandoning social media and be a bit reclusive or something. You know, you could have done that as well, but you didn't. You chose not to tell anybody.
Right.
And your friend, obviously, or your mate at the gallery, he didn't really seem to bother to tell anybody else. No.
No. We had the discussion right then that he wouldn't tell anyone.
Okay, but he knew.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it must have something to do with that.
Yeah.
But those are good topics, you know, to connect it to. What it does, even if nothing comes out of the project itself as a project, it's not going to be anything, right? What it does is it gives you some ideas, and especially when you reflect on the process, what process you went through, your head went through. Why did you have those panic attacks? Why? You know, it teaches you something about yourself.
Right.
And that's also pretty awesome, and that's something that maybe gives birth to another idea,
Yeah.
to the real idea.
I think that was also a big part of why I felt so driven to do it, because I felt like it was an experience that I needed.
Yeah.
Like,
Did you ever run away when you were a kid? You know, pack your stuff and run to your grandma or something without telling your mom or something like
A
that.
little more extreme. Yeah, several times.
Okay. So maybe this is like a. You could argue that this is like a reflection of what you did as a kid.
Right.
You could argue.
Well, I mean, I was also suicidal for a long time. I went through periods where I didn't think anyone cared about me, and all that stuff. I have a history of mental illness. Like, yeah, you could totally say that, like, that's, and I don't think that should be dismissed. Like,
definitely not, because it might be a part of it. It doesn't mean that it's like.
It's not like the driving factor,
Yeah,
maybe, but it is definitely.
But it could be, that it's like a reflection from your past, and that it is maybe a way of you dealing with the past.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean,
that could also be.
It's also like it's interesting to like think about my philosophy. I feel like you have a good day, and that's great, but like 10 years from now, you're not going to remember that you had a great day, But if you have a shitty day, like say your grandma dies or something, like something awful happens, you're going to remember that day,
That's the weird thing. I think it's only partially right. I think, in my experience at least, is whenever someone died in my family, I tend to remember the good days, the adventures, the funny stories, the not so much the bad things. Normally.
Well,
unless I had only bad things.
Oh, that's not what I meant. I don't mean like you remembered the bad things about your grandma. I mean like, I guess a death is like a bad example, but I think that the negative experiences you have are the ones you learn from. You don't really learn anything from having a fun day at the water park, but you learn, who you are through how you cope with negative things happening to you.
True, but you also learn from good evenings with friends. If you have a good talk, if you have a good I would say that I learned not only from bad experiences, but also from good experiences. When you did something right, you learn from that and try to do it the same way again, because then you can say, all right, I did something good there, something worked out. Right, I hang out with that guy, and it was a fun time. So I will hang out with that guy again. Right, I read the book by Cormac McCarthy, and I liked the book, so I'm gonna read a second one.
Cormac McCarthy, I'm glad you brought him up, because actually the basis of this theory that I'm now questioning came from a writing class I took where someone was complaining, like we read Lolita and Thérèse Racan and some really dark, depressing, like sad books, and she was like, can't we just fucking read something happy? And the professor was like, well, like if there's nothing sad in a book, first of all, you have a really short book, and second of all, you're not going to want to finish it.
Yeah.
Because it's going to be really boring, like nothing, you're not going to learn anything from a story where everything that happens is just a good thing.
True. That's the basic thing of stories, right? The hero has to face obstacles.
Right.
Right, that's the basic idea. Otherwise, the hero won't be the hero, right? In overcoming those obstacles. Or failing to overcome them, right? And then the hero dies, for example. Right. Yeah, that's the basic thing of storytelling, right? A story where there's no challenge. That's not a story worth telling, really. Right. Why should I tell you about a day in the life of someone who doesn't experience anything? Unless I make make a point in proving that that guy has a very, very sad life because he doesn't experience anything, right? So, yeah, true. I mean, but I wouldn't, I still don't think that you only learn from bad things.
Yeah.
Because that's also part of the talking about books, talking about how stories work. That's the basic idea that a hero, for example, he tries to accomplish something and he fails and fails and fails and then succeeds because he realizes what he did right. For example, he realizes, okay, I tried to climb that mountain, and I know I can do it because every time I manage to get a little bit up higher, right? But I always did something wrong. So what did I do right? And then he realizes, okay, I always used the right shoes, but I never used the right gloves, for example, right? So he changes the gloves, keeps the shoes, and then suddenly he can climb the fucking mountain, right? So a book that is just full of failures is not only that it's depressing, it's also
unsuccessful. Yeah.
It's also as boring, and you won't read it to the end, not because you're too depressed, but because you're bored. It's not a story worth telling.
Right, things have to be dynamic.
Yeah, exactly. There has to be a balance.
It was actually pointed out to me recently that I function primarily in survival mode.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so yeah, my friend told me I don't think about living, I think about surviving. And that was really interesting because that it was kind of a wake up call. I think she's right. And I'm not sure how to change that mentality, but I think that, that philosophy is probably tied to that, just like...
Maybe, yeah.
So, like...
Alright, here's an example, right? So, our Western society is strongly influenced by the way of thinking of Christian way of thinking, right? The whole idea, what was big in the Middle Ages, in the dark times, right? That humans by default are full of sin, and that they have time during their life to work off that sin, and then at the end, the big man with the white beard judges, right, says, all right, yeah, you can go to heaven, or you can't, you have too much sins, right? So basically the whole mentality built up on that is that life is just suffering. That's it, and then you have the paradise when you die. So it's constant waiting for what comes next. Through that waiting, you miss everything else, because who knows what comes next, right? It's written down by a couple of guys in a little book, right? And some people believe in it and some people don't. I don't question their beliefs, don't get me wrong, but I think when you just live your life in the constant thread of judgment and in a constant waiting for death, you don't live your life. You're in survival mode, right? In a way, because you constantly expect death. So, and here's the thing. There are other cultures, other ways of thinking about that.
Right.
For example, Northern mythology doesn't believe it's a mythology. It's not so much of a religion. It's there is a different, but we leave that aside for the moment. So what this mythology says, there are a lot of gods, right? And it's much more like the Greek mythology, right? With all the different gods, they're very human-like. They have affairs. They fight amongst each other and stuff like that. So the interesting part about northern mythology is that at the end of all days, the light will fight the dark, and the dark will besiege. The good guys will lose, right? The good guys. That's a weird way to put it, but the light will lose. Everything came out of darkness, and everything goes back into darkness, and then it starts all over again with a little spark. So in between, we as humans, since that is a fact, you know, that everything comes out of darkness, everything goes back into darkness, since that's a fact, right? It's the same with our lives. The two things that I said are our birth and our death. Everything in between is up to us to decide. So there's no point in thinking about when you're gonna die. You didn't think about when you're gonna be born.
Right.
So why bother? So make the best out of it, right? So when you do the best you could, right? Live your life on your own terms and decide whatever you want to do, you know. Then you will end up happy. That's the idea. I like that thought. It's you don't have to answer to a higher being that judges you. The only one you have to answer to is yourself. If you decide to fall or fight for the dark side, well, fight for the dark side. That's yours. There you go. It doesn't matter because it's said anyhow.
Mm-hmm.
You know what's gonna happen. Darkness will win. So there's no point in arguing if it's good or not for a bigger plan.
Yeah, it's like yin and yang. Like
Yeah.
It doesn't mean bad. It just means dark.
Yeah. Exactly. So yeah. So that's maybe a different way of thinking about it. You know.
Well, I'm fascinated by duality. You know, maybe it comes from being bipolar, but I think that in order for everything to exist, nothing also has to exist, and vice versa. Like so.
Yeah.
And
It's basic physics.
right.
You know?
Right.
You know? If I do this, then obviously there was force.
Equal and opposite reaction.
Equal and opposite reaction. Exactly. So yeah, basic physics. I would say.
Well, yeah, and also like in there being opposites, I think that for things to be opposites, they have to be exactly the same, because in order for either of them to exist, they have to exist, right? So it's like black and white have everything in common. You can't say that things that have nothing in common are opposites because they don't have enough in common. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah, I guess.
So
as far as I know, I don't know a lot about physics, but as far as I know, everything that exists in this universe has a counterpart.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I like that thought on a metaphysical level, on a philosophical level. That means that everything that has been said has a word that's equally strong that stands against it.
right.
So, and
I hope I didn't. Oh, I didn't reverse the video. Good.
What was that?
That was my phone falling.
Oh, did you crack it?
No. No, I did that days ago.
There you go.
For now.
Yeah, so at the end of the day, I think that's something. I mean, if you decide to sit on your ass and wait all the time and don't use the time that you have, or even just thinking about how much time you've got left, that just puts that just blocks your thoughts, blocks you from living, keeps you in survival mode, but not actually allows you to live. Because it doesn't, when you think about it, it's a silly thought. It doesn't matter when you're gonna die.
Right.
You
Well,
will.
when
You know what I mean? It's a simple fact. Everything goes. Everything disappears. It will happen.
it's interesting. When I say survival mode, I didn't mean that I was living in constant fear of death.
Okay.
Which which I'm just realizing is probably how you saw it, but it's I'm not afraid of death.
What does survival mode mean then?
Well, just like it's hard to. It's like trying to explain what a color looks like. It's just a perspective. Like.
Does it mean that you just want to get through it as quickly as you can?
No, I think it's a subconscious thing. It's not like, oh shit, if I do that I'll die. It's more like you know, like I don't know if this applies, but let's see where it goes. There was this short period of time where I wasn't getting enough to eat. So every time I was offered food, I ate too much. And, you know, I wasn't hungry for that much, but I would just keep eating and eating because I was, like, my body was like, well, if you don't get enough to eat, you're gonna die. So, like, you know, I wasn't thinking like, oh shit, I'm gonna die, I gotta eat more. It was like my body just wanted that to happen, you know. It's like when you're highly aroused, not sexually, but like your instincts, you're running on instincts, you know. It's like quick reactions, like to survive, but it's a subconscious thing. It's not like, you know, I'm sitting here with anxiety about death. It's just like my body is in that mode and my instincts are kind of, you know, freaking out about stuff when there's nothing really to worry about.
Yeah, that's the question, right? Why do your instincts freak out? You know?
I don't know. Like I didn't even realize that was happening. I think part of it is just like all sorts of stuff that's happened in the past. I just maybe have set myself up to be thinking more about making it like to the next day, and I've been thinking less about like making it today, you know? And it's not a conscious thing, it's like just a way of functioning.
Yeah.
You know, like it's weird. You can everything you can do, everything you do can be because of something that you don't even believe in. Like I wouldn't consider myself afraid of death. I don't think of myself as someone who's afraid of anything really, but you know, I'm in survival mode, and it's like really weird. I don't know how to explain it.
Yeah, well, it sounds a bit like that there's a lack of balance. You know what I mean? That you consciously aren't afraid of death, but your instincts say something different.
Right.
Right? So, sounds a bit like that. But, I don't know, absolutely literally no clue. I'm flying blind here, but I would, but I could say something like that you feel that instinctively, or your instincts feel threatened by what's going on around you.
Even when nothing's going on around me.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, wouldn't be a new thing. I mean, we live in crazy times, eh?
Yeah.
And I think for some people it's harder to cope with than for others. And you know, to a certain extent, they are scary times. Not to the extent that there is war going on or something in our backyard. But it's still weird when you think about it, right? Brings us back to social media, right? And the whole idea of friends, right? Consider someone a friend that we never talk to, that we can't touch. And those things are ingrained in us, I think. Physical contact. I think that's basic human thing that we need. So in a way we are shut out from society. We chose an exile in a way, even when we surround us with other people. That exile is our laptop that we take to the next cafe, and we, instead of sitting there enjoying a coffee, you know, maybe talking to someone that we've never met before, we sit there and with our laptop and chatting to someone that we never met before, but that we can't even see, really. Not really. We can maybe Skype with them and see their faces on the screen, but it's not the same. It's not like, you know, shaking someone's hand, you know. It's different. It's like a not a psychological, but a physical exile. To a certain extent.
And I think there's a lot of psychological stuff to it too.
Yeah, probably. I mean, instincts are psychological. And we have the tendency to beat and kick our instincts everywhere we can. That's a thing we do. Which is I mean, don't get me wrong. It's good that we have our instincts under control. Otherwise, men would run around, and whoever has the biggest club would win, right? So that's good. That it's not like that anymore. Most parts, but. Also, it sometimes seems like we, as a society in general, totally generalization going on right here, but as a society, sometimes it seems, for me, or to me, that we have the tendency to ignore our instincts, our psychology, that we ignore ourselves and just try to fulfill an imaginary position in society that we can't possibly fill, that someone made up for us, or that maybe we made up, and we don't belong there, but we still try to fit in there. Some people don't know it any better, some people are too proud to admit it, and some people maybe even choose it. But I don't think that it's healthy. I think that it's important to reflect what you really want, what your body needs, what your mind needs to be in balance, and that the two should be friends. That's the thing. When they work together, that's perfect. And I think an individual can work on that, can try to bring them to an agreement. Right? Yeah, but that's just me. Man, we talked a lot now, did we? Is it good? Are you fine with the interview? Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Easy. Then I would like to drink some water. Do you want a glass of water? Yeah? So, I'm gonna get some.